Hey, welcome into this edition of Seattle Seahawks Today. Tyler Jones here. We're talking trade targets for your Seattle Seahawks. As OTAs are in the rear view, minicamps going on right now, we're going to look at 5 players across the National Football League that have held out for whatever reason, could be on the trade market, and who the Seahawks could potentially acquire. We'll dive in, talk about each one of their situations in just a matter of moments. Before we do that, folks, this month here on Seahawks Today, the most sub video we have, we picked up about 21 new subscribers on the channel. I know we can do better than that, folks. So here's my goal straight from the bosses for today's show. They said, Tyler, you need to get 50 new subscribers off of today's video. Can we make it happen? Can you guys deliver? Join the family for the latest happenings on your Seattle Seahawks all offseason long. Daily news and rumors, live shows twice a week, breaking news, mailbags, and more. This is the place to be. Subscribe now for free. Let's make 50 subs happen. We'll start with today's show. We begin with a big one. Micah Parsons from the Dallas Cowboys missed OTAs, and his holdout is a bit of an odd situation, as he claimed it wasn't necessarily over his contract situation and that there was some health concerns and some kind of very vague details going on. But talk has stirred up a bit over the last couple of months about the Cowboys and Micah Parsons not necessarily seeing eye to eye. And if you remember, there was a report that we told you about here on the channel a while back about how some people within the building there at the Star in Frisco have made it known they would not mind if the Cowboys ultimately moved on from Micah Parsons, that he's made some enemies, if you will, within that building. And think about this. One guy that did like Micah Parsons, that spoke glowingly of him, and Micah Parsons spoke glowingly of him as well, was AD, the Seahawks defensive coordinator. He was a huge part of the development of Micah Parsons into turning him into the player that he is today. So while it seems unlikely that Micah Parsons is going to get traded, if there was a place that would seem like a fit, somebody that could use more pass rushers and that knows Micah Parsons well, you would think the Seattle Seahawks could be that option. Micah Parsons, former first-round pick out of Penn State, a 3-time Pro Bowler, one of the best defensive players in all of football, a 2-time first-team All-Pro, the NFL's Defensive Rookie of the Year back in 2021. Coming off a fantastic season in 2023 with 13 sacks, 1 forced fumble, 17 tackles for loss, and 59 tackles. And you compare his statistics with among the best of the National Football League, he's right up there. As you can see, the numbers only behind Nick Bosa and Myles Garrett. You bring in Micah Parsons, it wouldn't be cheap. You have to pay him a new contract that's going to be due coming up pretty soon. And you'd have to give up considerable draft capital, but you'd be getting an elite football player to say the least. So let's ask you in the comments section, our pinned comment today, should the Seahawks trade for Micah Parsons? Type T for trade, P for pass. Wait in the comment section and tell us what you think. Next up, we turn our attention to Hassan Reddick, and this one another of a surprise, if you will. Hassan Reddick literally just arrived in New York to join the Jets after he was traded there from Philadelphia as they gave up a conditional third-round pick. But although he just arrived, he hasn't technically arrived yet. He's nowhere to be found within the building. He's had no communications with Robert Saleh to this point. And this, I'll say this, folks, kind of reminds me of a situation with Antonio Brown when he arrived with the Las Vegas Raiders. I know what some of you may be thinking. There isn't a whole lot of precedent for a guy that just got traded one place to be traded again before he even played a down for that team. But that's what happened with Antonio Brown. The Raiders moved on from him pretty quickly after just a disastrous offseason there. Eventually, he did land on his feet playing for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and such. But you look at the situation with Reddick. Here's somebody that's still in his prime years, right? Coming off a Pro Bowl appearance last year, his second straight, second-team All-Pro in 2022, former first-round pick out of Temple. And we mentioned the third-round pick he was traded for. If he gets traded for a second time in the same offseason, you have to think that price tag's going to be less. Now, you do have to pay Hassan Reddick, and I know what some of you are going to think right away. The Seahawks don't have any cap space and all that. Look, You can make money move around. You can find the money if you really want to make this happen. For an elite football player like Hassan Reddick, who had 11 sacks last year, 38 tackles, 13 tackles for loss, 49 tackles, 11 tackles for loss, and 16 sacks the year prior. In this defense, we've seen under Mike Macdonald, what he did in Baltimore really got the most out of his pass rushers, from guys like Jadeveon Clowney to Kyle Van Noy, among others here. And this is somebody that in his younger years, compared to those guys he had at the end of their careers, older guys, I think Hassan Reddick could be a lot of fun in Seattle. More to come here on Seahawks Today in just a moment, but first, let's tell you about our Father's Day sale that we got. Father's Day just around the corner. I know my dad would want one of these. I might have to order one from my dad. It is a Seahawks #1 Dad t-shirt on sale now at chatsports.com/Seahawks Dad. Got the Seahawks logo on it. Says #1 Dad on the back. Although it's a Father's Day gift, this is a shirt that Dad can wear year-round, the Lumen Field, and more. Might stumble upon some free shipping. Go see for yourself. Chatsports.com/Seahawks Dad. The link is in the comments and description of today's video. Let's go to the offensive line now. This is where we find Tristan Wirfs, the offensive tackle from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And the Seahawks find themselves in a very interesting situation when it comes to the offensive line, as Charles Cross and Abraham Lucas are expected to be your bookend starting tackles. But you look at the situation with Abraham Lucas coming off knee surgery and missing most of last year. The hope is that he's back for training camp, but we really don't know. And you remember what Pete Carroll said about Abraham Lucas, that it was a chronic issue. So the fear is that this isn't going to go away and resolve itself anytime soon. What you could do is, if you bring in Wirfs, you could put him at the left tackle spot, move Charles Cross to right tackle, and all of a sudden this offensive line is a whole lot better. And then with Abraham Lucas, whether you throw him in a trade package or if you potentially move him to guard or be your main primary backup, you got options there and you got depth all of a sudden. You look at the resume of Wirfs. This is somebody that was a first-round pick out of Iowa back in 2020. Three-time Pro Bowler from 2021 to 2023, first-team All-Pro, Super Bowl champion, big part of that Bucs Super Bowl team from a couple of years ago. The numbers from PFF pretty solid as well. 81.1 overall grade, 72.2 run block grade, 84.3 pass block grade. Good numbers across the board. Did allow 5 sacks in over 1,000 snaps last season. Who's a player the Seahawks should trade for? Weigh in the comments section. Give me a name that comes to mind. We got 2 more we'll bring up here in just a second, but it's your turn to be the judge here on Seahawks Today. Next up, we turn our attention to Cam Heyward of the Pittsburgh Steelers, a new name that we have not discussed on this program previously. And I know what you may be thinking. Hey, the Seahawks, didn't they just pay to bring in Byron Murphy and all that money to Leonard Williams and all that? All that is true. But here's a potential situation here. We've heard Mike Macdonald say that the Seahawks want to build a wall on the defensive line. Who on earth is going to be able to stop an interior defensive line that has Cam Heyward and Byron Murphy alongside? And Leonard Williams, you know, we know what he's capable of. All of a sudden, you're looking at those 3 guys involved there, and we know the Seahawks want to rotate, do 3-4 and 4-3 defensive sets, that they really want to match some things. We know that Jaron Reed can play inside and can play outside. This could be incredible for Seattle potentially. You look at Heyward, and he's coming towards the end of his career, right? And so although he's looking to still get paid, you're not probably giving up a ton for a guy with his type of resume, with him being on the back end of his career. 6-time Pro Bowler as recently as 2022, a first-team All-Pro 3 times as recently as 2021. Last year played in 11 games with 33 tackles, 6 tackles for loss. But you see what he did in 2022 and 2021. Each of those seasons were 10-plus sack seasons for Cam Heyward there. Last on the list, Trey Hendrickson, the defensive end for the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, this is technically not a holdout, but more so a hold-in for Trey Hendrickson, as he has made his grievances known that he would like to be moved on from the Cincinnati Bengals, that he wants a trade, but he's still staying involved. And you see this more and more with the way the league rules are of guys doing hold-ins instead of traditional holdouts so they can still keep their money. But this is somebody that could also thrive in Macdonald's defense of what Seattle wants to do here. You look at his resume, former third-round pick out of New Orleans. He was very good with the Saints, comes over to Cincinnati, was a big part of the Cincinnati defense that went to the Super Bowl a couple years ago, and he's playing some of the best football of his career right now. Career high of 17.5 sacks in 2023 with 3 forced fumbles, 16 tackles for loss, 43 tackles. You go back to what he did in 2021, 14 sacks, 2020, 13.5 sacks. Trey Hendrickson, he is that dude. And the Bengals, they just don't have the funds to pay everybody at this point with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. Hendrickson likely leaving. Seems like only a matter of time before they trade him and get something out of him. Same thing with T. Higgins there. So if you had to pick one of these two guys to trade for out of the AFC North, you're going with Cam Heyward or you're going with Trey Hendrickson. If it's Cam Heyward, type CH for Cam Heyward. If it's Trey Hendrickson, type TH for Trey Hendrickson. Way in the comments section, let us know which one you would rather choose from. Thanks for joining us here on this edition of Seattle Seahawks Today. Daily coverage you won't find anywhere else, including our 2 live shows. We'll have one coming up for you Wednesday evening right here on Seahawks Today. Subscribe now for free, youtube.com/Seahawks TV. Never miss a moment as we bring you latest happenings here on the channel each and every day. More to come. We'll see you on our live show coming up Wednesday evening at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific, right here on Seattle Seahawks Today. I'm Tyler Jones. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.